Why is there such inhuman treatment of people? I was thinking about it and decided to figure it out.
You will never spend a month without being attacked with a xenophobic attack, because they say as a foreigners we are stealing their work. I've lost that hope of being in the great society. I don't know, I've lost that hope, because seeing the way that people are being killed, seeing the way that people are being shot in my eyes.
A child can be sold many times. I remember one day I came across the story of a girl who was, she was Turkish. She had been sold 17 times, and she had been trafficked from one country to another 17 times, and she had experienced only rape.
I also sat in many auctions as a customer, as an undercover when I was doing the undercover. We were sitting for the auctions, 9-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl, as per the demands. So the trade called the first time sex. Whenever the auctions will happen, new girls arrive in the trade, so they put the auctions. So who will bid the last demand, the money, that person only will use that victim full night for his choice.
The business that is made of spare parts, the human spare parts. How many children have been transferred from one place to another and then being operated on for some rich guys in different parts of the world to get a kidney or get something else from their bodies against their will.
Black market, traffickers, mafia is part of this economy that is ruling the world. So what else I can say? That I only see that the other possibility is to spend money instead of constructing walls like we are doing in Europe.
In our society, human life has no value. How is it possible that instead of help, people encounter violence, aggression, abuse, and slavery? This is not a migration crisis, but this is a crisis of humaneness.
People, by looking at the existing legal frame, will not ever be entitled asking for protection. Because you will ask them which country you're coming from, they will say there is no country. I had a country called X, but the country now is underwater. Or I had a village and this village is being totally destroyed or disappearing.
It turns out that there are still no effective programs for the resettlement of refugees. For so many years, the United Nations has been working. For so many years, the Refugee Rights Commission has been working. So many humanitarian organizations and NGOs around the world have been working, but there are no working, established or adopted programs on how to work with these refugees. There are none, and the Refugee Commission itself admits this.
Now refugees are forced to leave their homes. They face condemnation and cruelty. They are left alone with their misfortune because of the consumerist format of society. Tomorrow's climate catastrophes could be upon us as well. Answer yourself honestly. Are you ready to face what refugees face? Are you sure you won't be in their shoes? That you and your loved ones won't have to go through what they're going through?
And that was only a 5-minute clip from the whole documentary that was aired on December 4th at the conference. And we already see the sad truth of what's truly happening worldwide. And this is a worldwide problem that we noticed from interviewing different people from around the world. And now let's move into our discussion as well. Holly, we know that you've watched the documentary itself, and maybe you can tell us what was most shocking for you and what was your initial reaction. Maybe there was something that was new to you that you found. Maybe you can just share.
I don't know that it was, and thank you very much, by the way. Hi. I don't know that it was that much of a shock to me. I think the more shocking aspect is the level of unawareness on a global level, and the level of, or the lack of education on a fundamental level that this is going on. A strategic plan to help shift what we're seeing. We have a global responsibility as humans to, support and care for one another. And I think on a core level, there's an education, he said, is missing around the globe. And I think once we spread education to the individuals that need it the most, we'll start to see a shift. I work with children that have wound up in the foster care system for various reasons. And I think, honestly, from a heart-centered place, I think when the adults fail the children do not have any other option. So they start to we see a lot of these people coming out of abusive situations. They basically do not know that they have human rights. There's just not that, we're not taught that. So once people are given the opportunity or the information that they do have value, then they can start to advocate. Not only we can advocate for others, but we can also advocate for ourselves. So I see this in the community of children that wind up on the streets because their families have failed them. But it's a problem that's existed for a very long time. So yeah. So, education is what I'm getting at. Is I think we need to educate the people that need it the most. I think what I was thinking about most was the need for education to the most vulnerable, the people that are the most vulnerable, because we can see it. The people that are educated can see it from an outside perspective. But when you're in it and you don't have the education, then that increases your level of vulnerability. So I think education.
Thank you, Holly, for your valuable sharing. Now, I would like to ask Andrea, this topic is heartbreaking and it is difficult to watch and to even understand that this is really happening today in our civilized society. Why do you believe it is important to speak up about the shocking truth of the refugees and the human trafficking? Andrea, please.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Dr. Anita, and all the Yatra TV team. It is so important to raise awareness on this topic, just like Holly was saying before. You have just said that we live in a civilized society. We are in the 21st century. 21st century, not in a single country slavery is legal, but yet more than 40 million people in 48 different countries are victims of slavery. 40 million people, from which the 71% of the total number of victims are women or children. There are 25 million victims of war force, and almost 30% are children. We're talking about a civilized society, but yet I can tell you from recent statistics that the 40%, almost the half of the world population, don't have any access to education at all. We are talking that 40% of the people of this planet don't know how to read or how to write. They don't have any kind of resources. If we don't talk about such an international global problem that are the refugees, that we're talking about a human crisis, because refugees are humans. Sometimes people treat refugees like they were trash or in such an inhuman way that I think that we are not giving this topic the importance it has. The only way we can find a solution if we will face a problem and talk about it. And just like the Asian saying goes, if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. If you are ignoring this situation, you are contributing to this situation. It has come to a way that, people from Europe and the first world countries have become insensitive to this topic because we believe that it doesn't affect us. we believe that we are so comfortable in our tiny little bubble that the only moment when people notice refugees, it's when they start hearing on the news that this is affecting our economy. Oh no, refugees are gonna harm the economy of my country. What a big problem. The way I see humans, and the reason why I created a global social movement that it's called One Humanity, One World, it's because I believe that we are just one human race, independent of your color of your skin, your culture, your language, your religion, beliefs, backgrounds. We are one human race. We are one humanity. And if we behave like one human family and we really cared as a whole, we wouldn't be indifferent of what is happening in the other side of the world, in other countries. We wouldn't be so insensitive. And that's because people haven't, especially the media, haven't worried to raise the awareness that is necessary for people to actually think about that those people that are suffering, that they are running away from their country because they are running away. They are not leaving their countries because they will love to. No, they have lost their families. They have lost their homes. They don't have nothing to do. They don't even have an identity any longer. They are running away. And we are not giving it the importance. We're treating it like it does affect us. It does affect us in a deeper way than just our economy. Until every single human being on this planet is free, freedom will not exist on Earth. So as long as one single soul remains as a victim on this planet, world peace will never be achieved. And I'm an advocate for human rights, and I'm always saying in a very optimistic tone that world peace is possible if we believe and if we care. Only then we can take actions like this. So answering to your question, that's why I believe it's so important to bring up this topic and have these kinds of conversation as we're having today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you, Holly. I agree. And, even while interviewing the people, the refugees, interviewing people that work with refugees and with human trafficking victims, it's heartbreaking hearing those stories. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see what kind of world we live in today. And we understand in it, but the understanding is there that we need to see this global problem. Because if we do not see the problem, we're not going to get to the solution. And it's so important today to talk about these topics and not to put our head in the sand. And also, Dr. Samir, if you can say also, what is your feedback on the refugee crisis? And maybe you have witnessed yourself climate refugees because of climate change. Maybe there is some climate change refugees, maybe in India even.
Yes, thank you so much for giving the opportunity to speak for such a nice issue, which is vulnerably spreading throughout the world due to climate change. Lots of people shifting their place, native place, and they are not able to get a good home or good, you can say, living to live in a quality life for their children and their family members. So due to political instability, somewhere people become refugees, somewhere due to the climate issues. So generally we can see the challenges in 21st century, the climate change rapidly becoming a major part for the citizens of different countries. It might be southern countries or eastern countries. They are shifting their native place. So we need to get some awareness throughout the world about the climatic change. Rivers getting polluted, our forest area burning drastically. Last year we have seen the lots of incidents about the burning forest in different parts of world. So it is a major issue from for the humanity to survive we need to protect our world. We need to protect, or you can say, make a better climate to live. Plant more trees, clean our rivers, protect our species. So we must think about the climatic aspect also. We are developing good technology and scientific improvements or innovations we are doing day by day. But the nature where we are living in, what the world we are going to give to our next generations. So this is the major issue, and this is the right time to think over this type of mega issues, we must say. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Samir, for your valuable sharing. It's true, we need to develop a good technology to overcome the climatic crisis. Today, we see that human life is not worth anything in the consumer society that we live in. We buy and sell not only things, but also people. Humans become a way to make a profit. And this is becoming a norm today. I have a question for our guest. In your opinion, can we solve the problem of refugees in the current consumer format of the society?
To solve the problem, I think we need to shift people's perspectives. I'm going to piggyback kind of on what Andrea said about how the media portrays refugees, and we get this information, and this information is received in a way that this is going to impact us in a negative way. And I don't think that when you are supporting another human being in a time of, trouble, in a time where things are devastating, that can ever have a negative impact. I think we have to be willing to make sacrifices for one another, be willing to compromise so that our brothers and our sisters are safe and cared for and well. When we love one another and we treat each other as human beings and we value each other as human beings, the value just amplifies globally. The benefits are long term. We have to look at the long term. Maybe we might be uncomfortable for a little bit, but I don't really see that because it's not really impacting us. We have this perspective that we're going to be impacted in the negative way, but I don't know that connecting with another human being, I don't know another soul that I encounter. Look at us here today. We're connecting and we're talking about solutions for humanity and having compassion and empathy, and that has a huge benefit. It's a benefit that has a ripple effect that definitely impacts us all. It affects us all in a positive way. So I think, when we have the media that's, portraying this fear, this mass media of okay, well, I think the planet's big enough. I think we have a big enough planet. There's plenty of land. We're not going to run out of room anytime soon, that we can make way for each other and we can support each other and we can start to educate. It's an opportunity. I think we have to look at it on a global scale, less as something that is detrimental. There's always an opportunity for growth, for healing, to have expanded compassion. So we absolutely can. We just have to shift our perspective. I mean, I think I've also, I do some work with a boutique nonprofit disaster relief here in the Atlanta area. And the one thing that I learned is that whenever you have, we're in this crisis, this humanitarian crisis, not just refugees, not just, pandemics and things like that. We're on a spiritual crisis. And we didn't get here overnight, and there is a long-term, we need a long-term plan. We do have to start somewhere. It's not just the climate, control or climate crisis as well. We have all these different little micro things that we can start to address from just a base of value and humanity. We look at the 8 foundations and just valuing human life. Nature provides a lot of clues for us as humans. Nature is resilient. And humans are resilient by nature. We see it. I was in New York City at 9/11. So talking about, a crisis in the long term, the thing that I learned the most was that, everybody wants to come and help when the crisis has peaked, when the crisis is happening. But we have to look beyond the immediate of the crisis. We have to build a plan that goes beyond the immediate need of support. And there's a great opportunity for organizations like this here, like the Creative Society. And we see lots of organizations coming to the forefront, supporting humanity. But we have to have a longer perspective, because the immediate need is only part of the problem. We have to look at the long-term solutions. Like if somebody you lose all of your stuff in an earthquake or a fire or whatever the case may be, and you lose all of your documentation, there's a long process that goes with that, besides the immediate needs of getting shelter and food and clothing and all of those things. You have to literally rebuild your life. So with the right, attention and awareness and education, we absolutely can solve these. And I don't want to say it's a crisis. I think it's an opportunity. I think we're in a very unique place as human beings. We're evolving, and we just have a massive opportunity to come together. And like Andrea said, we are one humanity, and to be able to support one another and to go beyond these invisible boundaries that we create of race and religion and gender and economic and all these other things. And it's just an amazing opportunity from where I sit. So, yeah.
Can I say something according to what Holly said? Absolutely. Also, the fake frontiers of the countries. The famous Imagine song, "What if there were no countries?" If we were living on a Pangea, this wouldn't be my country. That wouldn't be your portion of the line. We will all be learning to share. And I love the fact that you have bring a positive vision over it, because only from a positive perspective, we can bring positive solutions instead of just focusing on complaining about the problem. So it's very important what you have done, Holly, to put us on that positive aspect. And I believe that this crisis have a solution. And as Holly said, if we're looking at the long term and not just what is bothering us at this moment, there's a Chinese saying that says that only one grain of rice can change the balance of these balance machines. Sorry, my Spanish made me forget the name of what the balance actually his name was. But if only one little grain of rice can change the balance, that means that the action, thoughts, and words of one human being can affect the entire result on this world. So what we do in our daily life does have a huge impact. I say that people is not yet aware of the power they have in their own hands, even if the crisis is very far away from you. There, as Dr. Sumvia was talking before, they are refugees due to the climate crisis. What are we doing in our daily life? Doesn't matter where we live. What are we doing in our daily life to not contribute to harm more the climate so we can prevent more climate catastrophes from happening? You don't necessarily, because, many people tell me, well, I cannot fly to India or I cannot fly to Africa and help there because I can barely help myself. Yeah, maybe, but maybe you can adapt a more healthy lifestyle that doesn't damage the planet, that we end up creating climate catastrophes that would hurt other people. So what we do as individuals does matter. Other way we can help, each of us can help, is, as we were talking before, bringing more awareness to the topic. I work with other organizations and NGOs. One of those is working right now on a refugee camp in Turkey, on the refugee camps of the Syrian refugees. And, we work together to bring education to those children. But I was having a conversation with her and she was telling me, Andrea, these kids on the refugee camps have literally no food, no water, no resources. Am I supposed to teach them how to read if they are starving? People are not aware of that. We come here and the conditions are nefasting, terrible. There's not even a way to describe it. Yet we can make that public. We can show the world, do you see how people is actually living in? They have done nothing to deserve to live that situation. And we have the opportunity to bring that awareness to the rest of the world, because maybe the positive side of this global crisis is that people that is very comfortable on their tiny little bubble, if we make them face a problem, they are forced to say, maybe this shouldn't be happening. Maybe we are the ones that are allowing this to happen. Maybe we can actually do something about it instead of just ignore the problem and pretend that it's somebody else's problem. Because I'm telling you, if that was your mother, your children, your sister, you wouldn't be indifferent. You wouldn't be able to sleep at night. You would care more about the planet. You would care more about every tiny aspect. And again, if we are not giving that importance, it's because we have no access to education. That's why my organization focuses so much on educating the world. If 40% of the world population don't have access to education, that means that over the 40% of the world population don't know what their human rights are, don't know where to stand. So yeah, it's a very important part of the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Samir, maybe you would like to answer as well. Do you believe that, in the consumer format of society, we can make any changes, or do we need to change the format to the one where human life is of the highest value? Maybe you have something to say as well.
Yes, absolutely. Consumer society also can make a change or impact on the refugees' life. So, as our third foundation also saying that human safety, we need to think about the safety, basic needs of the refugees. They need food, they need water, they need shelters. So, we need to make an impact on their life in a practical sense. People are moving country to country and they are lingering on the policies. In 1951, United Nations made a policy for the refugees' safety. But in today's scenario, we are not able to see the impact of that policy, that refugee getting a basic infrastructure to live. Their children are not getting education. They are having zero schooling. So their children also have the right of education. If in any emergency situation they are shifting from their native place and they are not supposed to getting a behavior from other part, like it may be governmental part or societal part, they are not ready to adopt as a refugees. People think that they are threat for our society. So in that way, we need to check if, as a human being, the first priority of us to realize that they also the human being, we need to behave in a good manner, in a polite way, love, empathy. They can sense everything. Even a kid, when we ask to give a love, or can say kisses or hug to any, just a single 5-year kid, so he can feel the love. He never know that who is the person who is giving me love or bread and butter, shelter. So be human being, be empathic. So as ma'am said, the basic crisis is human crisis. Intellectual humanity is declining day by day. So this type of feeling we need to generate through our education system, through our policy, government, bureaucrats. This is the main necessity. If nobody want to be refugee by their willness, they are forcefully converting this side. Like in India, Rohingyas is a big issue. last year we faced the challenges by refugees in Afghanistan, Myanmar. So they also human being. We need to give them a safe environment to their families, to their women, girls, kids. So it's our prime responsibility as a human being, deal as a human being, not as a countryman that he or she belong from that country, make a different behavior to them. No, they all are human being. We all are one. As we say, we are a family. All planet is our home, shelter, and we are living in. It's our, as a brother, sister, we are living in. It is our family. So it's our responsibility to protect their rights also. So this is from my side now.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone for sharing. And we see that, the consumer society has truly hit a dead end. And I think, even for myself, I didn't realize what it means until we actually look around the world and we see all the crises we're facing today, the refugee crisis, economic crisis, geopolitical crisis, environmental crisis, climatic crisis. We see so many things that are happening today. And unfortunately, today we do not have a solution that can solve all this until the Creative Society, which, is a project for all of humanity. This is a project that, and you mentioned the 8 foundations too, which we will get into next, but Creative Society will actually provide a future without wars, without conflicts, without violence, or without hunger. And it will bring our society to a new level of unity and peaceful development in all spheres of life. And as we say, humanity doesn't need a revolution. We need an evolution. We need peaceful development in all spheres of life. And also the 8 foundations that Holly and Dr. Samir, both of you mentioned, for the past 10 years, volunteers from all over the world have been interviewing people worldwide to see what kind of world do they want to live in. How do they see these conditions, which will be perfect for their development, for the development of their kids? What is this peaceful world in which they would like to live? And that's how the 8 foundations of the Creative Society came to. And right now you can see them on the screen. And we will talk about the first 3 of the foundations as well. And, these foundations, we can see that these pillars will actually take our society to a new level of peaceful development. And I believe that is what all people want, as humanity is one big family. And truly, there's no differences. There's no separations. And let's take a look at the first foundation of the Creative Society. Let's read it together. And maybe, Holly, you can please share, in your opinion, how would this first foundation help solve the crisis with refugees and human trafficking, and not only? And I will read the foundation, and you'll see it on the screen as well. The first foundation is human life. Human life is the highest value. Life of any human has to be protected as one's own. The goal of society is to ensure and guarantee the value of each human's life. There is not and never can be anything else more valuable than a human's life. If one human is valuable, then all people are valuable.
Well, we're looking at investing in human life. We have to invest in one another versus, product and financial gains. I think there's no greater payoff for humanity than to invest in one another through education, through compassion, through empathy. The greatest or the largest return on investment is when we invest in one another, and we tap into the value that all humanity has, and we take away these imaginary or man-created boundaries that we have. Like, again, Andrea was saying, we're one society. Everybody gets panicky. I personally envision a world where there are no borders. Definitely we need to have some sort of order. That is just how the universe works. We need to have some sort of order in order to be able to thrive. but we can do so from a place of love and a place of compassion and investing in one another, and through that education piece, and allowing people to grow and to tap into their potential. I mean, we are all creative beings. We have so many. I mean, I can't even imagine where humanity, well, I can't imagine where humanity would be if everyone had the same opportunity, if they knew their value and they weren't put into these desperate situations where they felt like they didn't have a choice. You know, you have, if we talk about the trafficking piece, which is so heartbreaking, you know, where parents are selling their children just to be able to survive, to buy a cow so that they can feed their other children. You know, these are uneducated people. They're our most vulnerable section of society globally. You know, so when you have education and you invest in that, then you don't feel as desperate. You don't have that sense of, or that lack of value, I would say. So I think when we invest and you become less vulnerable, you become empowered when you know your true worth, when you know that you have value as a human being, just the core values of just being alive and breathing and being able to contribute. So I think the piece is absolutely, we have to invest in one another. We have to enable people to be able to know their worth and advocate for themselves, their own well-being. You know, we can look out for them as well. We have to, you know, teach them that, you know, the saying that goes, you can teach them, you can either give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day or a week, you know, give them enough fish, but you can teach them, you can teach people how to fish for themselves. And then that way they are not only feeding themselves and their families, but they are also feeding, you know, a village, a community, you know, so it's just that investment piece in teaching people the fundamentals of their value, how to advocate for themselves, how to keep themselves safe, not only physically, but psychologically and emotionally. Give them the tools that are lacking, that they don't know. They just don't know because we don't have that, you know, giving them the tools so that they can develop their intellectual capacities. And when we develop that, then everyone benefits from that. That is the greatest commodity. Humanity, the human being, the human spirit and soul has to be the number one commodity in this society as we transition from a material society into a more human society.
Thank you, Holly. It sounds great that investment, it is the greatest investment when we invest in the human life to know the worth of self. Now, Andrea, take a look at the second foundation and please comment how this will improve the current crisis we see. Second foundation, human freedom. Every human is born with the right to be a human being. All people are born free and equal. Everyone has the right to choose. There can be no one and nothing on the earth superior to a human is freedom and its right. The implementation of human rights and freedom must not violate the rights and freedom of others. So, Andrea, please share your views about this.
Well, in order to have human freedom that would represent that human respect should exist, we should give every human on this earth the respect they deserve just by the mere fact of being human beings. That means that even if we're talking about people that don't have access to the education or they are in worse circumstances because of the place on earth that they have been born to, that means that they deserve the exact same respect and be treated as equals as any other individual of the planet that nowadays have more privilege. That is to say, since as the statement that you just read, every human being is born as an equal, that shows us that no baby on this planet is born being racist. No baby on this planet is born hating with hate. Every human being that is born on this planet is born as a loving creature that sees everything as a source to absorb and learn from. That means that things like hate, racism, division, those are things that children learn as they are growing up, because their family teach them that, because society teach them that, because children ultimately only absorb what is in their environment. But if you raised up a child with only these morals and statements like human life that you were talking before, human freedom that you're talking about, if you implement that as you're raising up or teaching your children on this planet, that means that you are creating a next generation of respectful humans, that we create a world where human freedom would be a reality. And I love that Olga said before, we don't need revolution, we need evolution. We need an evolution of our consciousness. We need evolution that is also tied to our education. And most importantly, how are we raising up the next generations? Are we raising up a generation that is insensitive to other human life? Are we raising up a generation that doesn't see refugees as human beings, that doesn't believe that everyone deserves the same freedom and rights? I am only 20 years old, and I have a lot of faith in my generation, because I believe that we have shown that we care. Now, of course, not as many as needed care, but that's because we still haven't been talking about these topics. That's why it's so important for my generation to keep in mind how it's going to be the generation of the future. What children are we going to be raising up on this world? Because it all depends on us. What we are doing at our home, with our family, with our siblings, parents, the way we treat the people we love the most, it's more important than what your government is doing. It is, because in the future, that is not so far away as it seems, the destiny of humanity, you would realize that it has always been on your hands. And, you know, I was talking to a colleague of mine. It is estimated that in 2040, you know, in 2040, we're talking only like in 20 years, there will be no fish in the sea. That means that my children won't know what a fish is. Most of the 80% of wildlife will be extincted. That means that the butterflies I'm seeing today will no longer be in the future. What kind of world are we living for the future generations? What kind of legacy is your generation creating? What are you doing about it? Only if we ask ourselves these questions, we will believe in a world where human freedom is possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Holly. And then Dr. Sambir, you've already mentioned the third foundation of the Creative Society, but let's also, I'm going to read it, and then maybe you can also comment how can improve the living conditions for all if we implement all the foundations, including this one. The third one is human safety. No one and nothing in society has the right to create threats to the life and freedom of a human. Every human is guaranteed free provision of essential life necessities, including food, housing, medical care, education, and full social security. Scientific, industrial, and technological activities of the society should be aimed exclusively at improving the quality of human life. Guaranteed economic stability, no inflation and crisis, stable and same prices around the world, a single monetary unit and a fixed minimum taxation or no tax. The security of human and society from any kind of threats is ensured by a unified global service that deals with emergency situations. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Sambir?
Yeah, human safety is the basic necessity to live in a society. And when we talk about refugees, they needed most this thing, because when they shifted into another country, the currency changes, climate changes, religious cultural changes they face at every step in that particular country when they become refugees. So it is the basic need to get the primary safety about the education of their children, about the job. If somebody is becoming refugee and under very worse circumstances, people become refugees. So they must be talented person. They are the citizen of another country, and under the different circumstances, they have to change the native place. So they also have talents. They need job security. We must create job security for that refugees. Those are talented, and those who can make a good impact on the society in different countries. So women safety in part of economic safety, like at all level, all refugees will get a same price throughout the world with same currency. We doesn't need to you can say compare currency to currency. So under the poor situation or circumstances they become refugees, it's our responsibility to adopt them and provide a right kind of atmosphere to live, and bringing up their kids in a nice manner. They never want to depend on the different countries, and you can say different NGOs, government. They can become sustainable, you can say a suitable citizen for that particular country as a refugee. So they can be productive if we treat them as a resource, if we treat as a human being positive manner. So we need to make a good atmosphere, right culture, adopt them with love and care. It's they are like our brother and sister. We need to club into our society. So so many people in the different parts, every day they shifted their native places. They shift and they left their homes. They are into search bread for a night. So it is our prime responsibility to take care of these people. Refugees, not a word. They are human being. They are forcefully getting that situation to live in. Nobody want to become refugee. It's the you can say unfortunately conditions and the you can say poor fate of that particular country, they force their citizens to left their native country. So we must think about the safety. We uh, only then we can create a good atmosphere to live their livelihood in a better way, in a respective manner. They also have dignity. They never want to let down their you can say prime esteem or ego emotions. They also have the good heart. So we must take care of them.
Thank you.
Over
Thank
to
you
you,
so
ma'am.
much. Thank you. It was such pleasure to be part of this international discussion. It's so great to see all people from around the world coming together to talk about one of the most important things. How can we create a better future for all? How can we build this creative society where human life is of the highest value? And today we heard so many incredible examples, so many words of encouragement to show that we're all one big human family. We're all brothers and sisters, and there should not be any division between us. And, we see right now that the future truly depends on the action of each person, and that today humanity is standing on this very, very thin ice. And either the consumer format of society will kill us all, or we will enter this new level of positive development of our civilization. And today, the choice is up to each of us. And also at the conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth, we heard many examples of how ugly the consumer format is. And there is no chance it will hold up against those climate threats, which are growing as we speak right now. And that is why the Creative Society is our possibility, our only possibility today, to take the society, to take our civilization to this new level of development. And I would like to thank everyone for being with us today too. It was a pleasure to have this discussion.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
to all our guests today. I would like to end this discussion with a sincere invitation for everyone who is watching us right now to an international forum, Global Crisis. We are people, we want to live, on 7th May 2022 on the Creative Society platform. The purpose of this forum is truthfully and objectively inform humanity about the increasing danger of the climate and environmental disaster, to reflect the real scale of multiple crises of the consumer format of the society, and to consider practical solutions to overcome all the crises by building the Creative Society around the globe. Be part of history with us and become a part of global solution. So see you all on 7th May. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. And if you still have any questions, comments,
Thank you so much.
yes. And if
Namaste
you would
for
like to be a
Yeah.
part of this international discussion in the future, please email us at info@creativesociety.com. So thank you so much to all our speakers today. And until next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.